Hola community. Let's see how your voice, my voice, if you have been to the Blender conference or if you have to be into any conference, you know how the day after is. How are you? How is it going? Welcome to another episode of Blender Today live, streaming from the Blender studio. We just had an amazing conference. I know it looked like a different place. If you visited the studio yesterday, you may have noticed how this layout has changed a bit, but yeah, no, it's just that the last week we've been here knocking off some bricks to make it very realistic, as you can see, to make it more cozy because of the season, right? So I want to thank Francesco for helping out, and Saskia also for helping me with the knocking off the bricks, the wall. How have you been doing? Have you checked the videos that have been uploaded to this channel in the last week? Over 60 videos, including the keynote, the closing, the Susanna Awards. We're still checking because I think it wasn't very clear if they had to be recorded. Some of the videos there were out of competition and they shouldn't be streamed, right? For people that have their shorts that still are going in the festival, how do you call it, festival round. But other than that, it's been great. I still have to catch up with all the talks. I haven't even seen the keynote. On the first day I arrived in the morning, I had to set up the podcast for live streaming, and Don was giving the keynote, so I still have to watch pretty much everything. If I had to pick a favorite, I would say the one that I managed to see, which is the Sprite Fried's production notes. It was insane. It was a nearly 1 hour, but like 8 people presenting, so it's their work of the 1 year put in like 5 minutes. So the best of the best. I really like that one, but it's the only one I've seen. So please tell me which one should I see, or wishes. There is a playlist in the YouTube channel, so if you go to you are I hope, unless you are watching this from videos.blender.org, you probably are in the YouTube channel. There is a playlist called Blender Conference 2022. I put it all the way to the top of the channel, where you can find, in order actually order that they've been uploaded, the list of presentations, everything all the way till the end, including the recaps. There has been, for the first time at the conference, there has been at the someone at the end. Dan was during the no, wait, I'm not gonna say names. I think I'm gonna get it wrong, but because there's been multiple people making videos, and then at the end of the day this has been recorded. So thank you for working on this. The end of the day recap was uploaded on the same day at the end for the first time, so let us know how that went. But yeah, the keynote, I know, I've seen Tom talking about it, and I know more or less what it had in it. I know Vivian was helping out with the drawings at the end for one of the the waves. I'm not gonna spoil it, but I know the gist of it, and I know it was big projects were mentioned, extensions, apps, and the lab. The lab. I need some water. I've seen the day, but also there was some activity during the evenings. There was some karaoke involved at some point. There was some live music, live band after the conference. But during the conference also there were live performances of Andy Gorelchik on music and Simon on video, VJing using blenders. I don't know, I don't think, people, have you uploaded anything? Community, have you uploaded anything? Because there was a performance by Simon using Eevee and the real-time compositor with drivers driven with triggered with a MIDI controller on the stage for like 2 hours non-stop, 0 crashes. So Omar, I don't know if you're watching, but if you are, good job on the compositor, and well, good job to the artists too. But like using alpha development code for a live stream, for a live performance. Well done, well done. Let's see what is. Let me know in the comments if you're watching offline. But if you're watching live, let me know which ones are your favorite presentations. In the meantime, I just wanted to tell you to go to the Blender conference website and go to the photos section if you want to see a bit of some of the portraits that have been taken there at the photo booth. You're gonna find some legends like Francesco, like the people. Grease pencil, lots of grease pencil this year. We even have the new developer Amelie and Flavio also from they also gave a presentation about using about the tools they're making and about the project the Siren and so much more. So yeah, at the end we took one group photo and it's part of the Blender team and a bit of everybody who just jump in, but it was amazing. So thanks to everyone involved, and thanks to the team that has been uploading Anna and her team have been uploading the videos at the end of each talk, basically. So what do you think about that? Actually, I think I prefer it. I mean, I've never seen the Blender conference from online, but I prefer this concept of not streaming, because streaming is very it adds a lot of overhead, but just being able to chop the beginning and the end and just making the video and uploading it as a premiere, I think it works quite well. It's a good compromise of both, and at the end of the day you actually have the video in high resolution. I think the fact that it was a premiere, it makes it so YouTube doesn't show it in full quality yet, so I think the premiere concept we might have to drop. On YouTube, you know, you can, when you upload a video, you can make it premiere, so you can chat while it's going up. The problem is that sometimes the encoding of the video doesn't manage to be done completely and it's entirely, so it looks like you uploaded a 360p video. But yeah, other than that, I think it's been amazing. So we have lots of photos. We have people from the chat. There is photos from the community too. Outside of the venue was like, it looked like a pub that has been open after a while. But yeah, it's just awesome. So thanks to everyone involved, even people making their own t-shirts. This wasn't an official t-shirt, and I love when people make their own and they just bring their own gear to the conference. So let's continue. We have someone from Brazil there. Congratulations, Brazil. Very good decisions you're making. Other than that, let's continue. So another announcement in the community. We're going to see what's new in Blender today. Don't worry. There wasn't a lot of activity because of most developers were busy in one way or another with the Blender conference here or online due to the end of BCON 2 and the beginning of BCON 3. This Wednesday there's going to be a beta release, just saying, of 3.4, which means alpha for 3.5. It's crazy. In another round of events, tomorrow starts November, and with it starts Nodevember, this independent initiative by the community that has been done for a few years already, and it's a really good source of inspiration if you want to play around with nodes by yourself, or if you want to just get inspired to see what people are doing. When this project was started, I think it was only shading because, well, geometry nodes didn't exist. So you can nowadays you can do, this year it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be about I think shading. There's geometry nodes. It's just nodes, so you can do pretty much everything. And this year with the real-time compositor, I wonder what people are going to be making, or if they're going to make more use of the compositor this time. There is even a few nodes that were added support for in this week. So other than that, we are ready to start. There were a few changes that were done during the last week, or the days before the conference. I think it was 2 weeks ago, because some developers were busy preparing their presentations at the conference. So let's get started with some of the user interface changes. There was the main one, and this is actually super nice to mention here in this live stream, because on right click select, and I don't know if I'm gonna find the actual request, but it was the number of items in the outliner, there was, I'm not gonna find it, but you know, in the outliner, when you close a collection, you can see, and if you have multiple objects of the same type, let me make the window a bit higher res here. You're gonna find this number here that tells you how many of that type there are in the last episode. Yes, someone was mentioning, I think because there was a change in the UI, and someone mentioned it would be nice if we could see when there is more than 99 objects, because that's one limitation, that it was 99 and then plus, you know, just plus. Well, that limitation has been lifted, so now you're going to see individual numbers all the way to 999 plus. That is going to become 1K, and then you're going to have 2K, 4K, and then it gets 10K, and then I think I should stop duplicating because I'm going to mess up my setup. But you can go to 14K, and just, you can go up to millions if you want. Actually, there is I think there is even in the code, it goes even up to billions, I believe. But yeah, it is pretty neat. There is a task where you can see it. I think a bit better. It's not on this one. It's related to another task. But the count indicator, it was a design task by Dalai, so I probably find it this way. You're gonna see that it says 1M, or if it's 100,000, instead of showing 100K, because it would be too large to fit in the outliner icon, you're going to see 0.1 M for 0.1 million, and that will be yeah, I think that will be enough for all the numbers that you need. Maybe it could show the entire number once you reach a, you could show it on mouse over, for example. So yeah, you get to see 1.7 million, and I think it's even billions. They tested it with billions. I don't know how that would have worked to show the billions, or maybe just in the code they did multiply by 1,000 or 2. But what is great about this is that now that we have this concept more generalized, not only for the outliner, we can use it in other places. For example, in the case of node groups, when you have a node group, for example here that says 3 because it has 3 users, the node group has been used 3 times, it means that we could do away with the data block selector from the user interface. And for cases where you know what you're adding, if you just made a new node group, it makes sense to have the name and everything right there. But if you're adding a node group from a library, for example, from an asset where you have this limited functionality encapsulated in a node group, and you know you're not going to change the name, you don't have to see the name itself, because the name, you don't have to rename the node group because it's something that you use often. So in that case, in the case of node group assets, the data block selector is not going to be shown by default. You can still access it in the properties editor, and something so it will make the node a bit more compact, which is pretty neat. But still, it is handy to know the number of users of that node group, so that way you know that it's like, oh, if I change this, I'm actually affecting a bunch of node groups. In that case, the number of users is shown in the icon up here in the indicator in the top right corner, but also if you're inside of a node group, you're gonna see it in the breadcrumbs, also known as context path in the overlay. So it's actually pretty neat, because this can be expanded to more places. We could even go ahead and have it, for example, in the I remember a time ago, the design of this selector, which can become very busy sometimes. Like here, you have the data block picker, the name of the data block, the user count, which doesn't get shorter, and the fake user or asset, plus the duplicate, plus the delete. All of this could be minified, and having that icon, maybe the numbers could show here instead of showing the users there, and the make single user could be like in a little drop down, together with other things. For example, in here we have delete, permanent delete. For example, right now, if you want to permanently delete this material, you have to do shift click in the X, and that is kind of hidden, I would say. Well, it sets the users to 0, which is similar, and to permanently delete it. So that could be in a drop-down menu, among many other options. We during the UI workshop, mini workshop that was done before the conference, here at the conference, we discussed this and may come with some design updates for the future. Okay, proposals, not updates. Well, proposals for updates. Let's change gears a little bit to talk about, oh, I almost pressed the end music of this. I might be a bit dead of the conference. Geometry nodes. It's a couple of things in geometry nodes. One of them has to do with a tiny bit of performance improvement. It's a change in the, not user changing, so it wouldn't make a difference, but under the hood, the copying attribute data between in geometry nodes has been like deduplicated into a more generic function, which means these any improvements that is done, it will affect all the copying. For example, this new way of copying data is actually multi-threaded, so everything that is using this code is going to be multi-threaded. It uses less space, so the binary is actually slightly smaller, 100, 200 kilobytes. But the compile time may be faster too, but yeah, I like it when things get unified. Performance. But this one is a bit more impressive. It has to do with not only the geometry nodes editor, but nodes in general. And it has to do with the socket node lookup performance. What is that? Well, if you need to find the node that contains a socket, instead of looping through all of the nodes, which used to do in Blender internally, now it will know in advance, okay, this node has a socket available. So in other words, this could improve drawing performance of the node tree editor, if the node tree is large enough, between 2 and 3 times faster. So that's kind of sweet. Depends, of course, again, in how many nodes do you have. Speaking of, well, not really nodes, but yeah, related, curves. So during the conference, I met Philip. I think we haven't met before, and it's super nice to see him. He was part of a podcast that was held by Monique, and she invited the silent forces behind Blender. It's here in the live stream, and Philip was one of them, together with many other people that are contributing to Blender. Maybe not like for the superstar changes in Blender, like not making a whole new cycles, but doing so much of the work, triaging, testing bug reports, and it's work that is just, or even more important, I would say, because it keeps Blender alive and stable, and it also reduces work from core developers that have to focus on other places, or even simplify the bug reports in a way that is like, oh, actually this is something serious that has to be looked up by another developer. So it is really, I would say, even more important and to keep around. So thank you, Silent Forces. And this change is not silent at all, actually. It's a usability improvement that we are all going to use whenever you find, whenever you're doing curve stuff with hair, for example, when you need to select the surface for the UV map for that surface where you're going to sculpt and distribute your hairs. It used to be just a property, a text property field where you just type, and you gotta type by hand, manually, the name of the UV map. Not anymore. Now you can actually just type and it will be complete for you. You can see what has been used, if the name is correct or not, and even if the name is wrong for that because you just mistyped it, it's going to show in red as it is invalid. So super nice usability improvement there. Let's see if we have a no screenshot, but you know how it looks. It's a drop down. What I'm most curious about this, in the commit log, you see that the change is fairly small. Instead of just doing like layout property, if you know a bit of Python, Blender Python UI, you see that this is what is usually you do when you want to add a field, but actually just replacing it with a property search, and you pass along the data that you need. But if there is a surface already, if the surface exists, then yeah, and then have property search. So I wonder if there is other places in Blender where do you think this could be done, where we have to type things by hand and we could just replace it with a property search. If you do, let us know. Or maybe try it yourself. You just need, instead of prop, check out all the links, by the way, to all the commits are in the description. So if you want to go and see the code for this one, just look it up down in the description below. Okay, you know what got a new feature? It's cycles. Cycles got a new feature and a few improvements for many backends. All right, first, what is the new feature? Equiangular cube map face camera projection. When would you use this? For example, for VR video formats that use this projection instead of perspective projection for cube map faces. So, metaverse now. There wasn't a lot of metaverse going on in the conference. I only met one person involved directly into that, which was super nice. But I wonder if people are is not really part of a Blender. Well, it is. I mean, we have this. It is, but I wonder why wasn't there more presentations about it. I mean, it gets about rep, same as NFTs and everything, but if it's approached from the right, side, we should get more. Equiangular cube map face camera projection is one more option that you get to project your cameras. The other changes has to do more with like hardware specific improvements. One of them is a small change in metal for the Apple silicon structures to be slightly faster. How much faster? Well, on an M1 Ultra it gets between 2 or 3% performance improvement. However, it could give more in the future for M2 I'm mixing languages. M2 architectures. It could give up to like close to 10% in the future together with these changes. That's pretty interesting. There was people from Apple even at the conference, which is also nice to see, the industry together. So what if you don't have one of these super new M2 Apple silicon computers? Worry not, because metal, the backend for Apple devices, is now also enabled for Intel GPUs, which is amazing, because if you look at it has a few issues, few limitations that you can read in this commit. But if you look at the task where the Cycles metal support was starting to be gathered and followed, the hardware support section covers Apple Silicon, AMD, and the one missing was Intel, which has a task that has been already closed. So in theory, this could also be closed. I wonder why it hasn't been closed yet. Maybe because of the known issues, but this is pretty promising. It seems like the cycles integration is at least getting to a point where it's like, okay, it's officially support everywhere, and now time to do performance improvements and really take advantage of the Apple hardware, or AMD or Intel. And speaking of Intel, there was a one change done in the development version after 3.3 that had introduced a performance regression. So if you're using 3.3 LTS, you're fine. If you only use stable releases like 3.3 and 3.4, you're fine. 3.4 hasn't been released, of course, obviously, but this is for a regression that was introduced after 3.3, so some months ago during development. So if you only use stable releases, you're not going to notice. If you notice that your Intel graphics card started rendering slightly slower a while ago, well, update Blender, because you're going to get 15% performance improvement. So not bad. Next topic is UVs. There is support for snapping on non-uniform grids. Actually, we talked about it a few weeks ago when the non-uniform grids support was added. Now you can snap to those. So yay for that. Thank you, Chris, for working on it. You can snap. Non-uniform means that you have more X, more like a longer grid in X or in Y axis independently. Next changes has to do with Sculpt. And okay, and this is just a PSA. This is just for fun, actually. I just wanted to mention this because it is kind of fun. You know that the deleting the default cube, you know, everybody goes and deletes the default cube and then add a new one. You know, it looks kind of useless because you deleted it and added it. But until this change, it actually had a tiny reason to exist. It was like, okay, maybe it's not too bad. Why? Because the default cube that came with Blender had a face sets enabled. You know, when you go to sculpting and you calculate a face set, it will get generated. So probably the person that made the default cube in first place first went into sculpt mode, generated a face set, and then saved the file that is shipped with Blender for the default cube. So yeah, it's tiny. It's a little bit of memory. It really doesn't. It maybe affects a little bit of performance if you were like not sculpting, you were not using the face set, but you were doing something else. So it's very, very small. I just wanted to bring it up because it's, yeah, it's a small thing. But now you will be like, hey, Pablo, so now that has been removed, it's gonna get slower when the face set has to be generated, right? Because now I don't have the face set in the first place. Worry not, Hans made face set creation 4,000 times faster. Okay, it was already faster. I mean, it was like in a 4 million faces grid, it was taking 2.6 seconds. Well, actually, that's not too much, not so fast. It's almost 3 seconds for 2.5 seconds for the 4 million face grid. So it feels like a stutter. You know, you gotta wait there for 2 seconds. Who has 2 seconds anyway? No worry, now it's actually much faster. 0.6 milliseconds. So it's 4 times faster. It's kind of crazy. It's awesome. So yeah, the default cube no longer has face sets, and creating those face sets is now 4 times faster. You know what else is faster? A bunch of things. So let's call this section the bunch of things section. Bunch of things that are faster section. What is going on in the chat? Luz Martinez, Pablo is a lot of exclamation mark. Did I do anything? Hola, Luz. And Iron Man is, I love free stuff, so I love Blender. That's one way of putting it. Next change is gonna make that free stuff even faster. So what is better than free? Well, something that's free and fast at the same time. The batch ID deletion is now 100 times faster thanks to Bastian. How? Why? When? Or what does it mean? What is batch ID deletion? Batch ID deletion, you can imagine ID is ID data block, right? And deletions, it's when you remove something. For example, if you remove a library from your scene, it's not just like this library goes away. The library and everything inside that library has to be either removed, replaced, you know, something happened. So the fact that these actions are faster, it propagates all over the place. Not only deleting things, but replacing things and with new ones. 100 times faster. That's a lot. So for example, if deleting 2 different libraries on this test went one library that was taking 5.5 seconds to delete is now 0.03 seconds. So we're talking milliseconds. And 13.60, like 13.60? Okay, more than 13 seconds. Now it's 0.13. How did that happen? By finding a crash, actually, from the heist scene, which the name has been announced. Are you aware of it? The name of the new Open Movie project. I'm not gonna spoil it, let you find out on your own. So next, not only the performance of batch ID deletion is now faster, 100 times faster, but the relocation or reloading of libraries is now also faster. How much faster? Well, it depends really on the complexity of the scene and how many libraries are reloaded. For example, if when you reload a library, if there is a lot of library overrides to resync or not, it can give up to 10% improvement in performance. But in general, it is much faster. Library overrides, removing stuff, adding stuff, creating facets. I love it. What else? View layer. This also has to do with performance by Monique. Reduce object duplication syncing. Again, this is one of those changes that are hard to track or like to measure one-on-one before and after how much faster it's going to be, because depends on the scene, on how many objects are in that scene, how many view layers you have, but it should bring a significant performance improvement, because it's one of those cases when the code is changed to I think it's to fail sooner or earlier, to stop sooner. Whenever it can't find something, instead of continuing looking for it, it just stops. So yeah, one of those cases. You know what else? Speaking of new, no, I didn't speak of anything. Real-time compositor. I mentioned at the beginning of the show that the real-time viewport compositor that has been introduced in 3.4 is gonna be part, I think is probably one of the star of the show, of the release and the release notes, which I have to start working. I think this week I'm already gonna start working on it. So please, if you make anything cool with the real-time compositor, hashtag B3D, hashtag, well, let's make up a hashtag, because hashtag geometry nodes is great. Hashtag grease pencil, I also follow. Hashtag compositing nodes, hashtag real-time compositor, I like that. And it should apply even when it's not real-time, as in like almost real-time. Next change is the introduction or the support for the tone map node in the real-time compositor. That was one of the nodes missing, together with the normalize node, which is now also supported in this new system. I don't know how far are we with the total amount. Link says RT compositor. Yeah, that could be, because real-time compositor is too long. Viewport compositor, hashtag viewport actually viewport, but because real time is one thing, you know, real time, is it yes or not? But viewport compositor, we don't have that, right? And that doesn't exist in other areas. Hashtag viewport comp, real time comp, pick one, make it big. Oh, because November it also starts, so you should use all those hashtags. Hashtag November, hashtag geometry nodes, grease pencil. Normalize node, and that I think closes the changes for the real-time compositor. Let's talk about Linux, or more precisely Wayland support on Linux. There's a number of changes this week. The past week it really looks like Campbell switched completely, one of the developers, to use the to use Wayland, because it made like, I don't know, like 20 changes this week. So like for example, high resolution, added support for high resolution 2D trackpad scroll events. What does it mean? Well, it's gonna be needed in the future for supporting like swipe, rotate with like more precise as you move, but that is already pretty big. Speaking of scroll, now scrolling is inverted, and it follows what you will find in GTK and Qt, but not in the default Wayland. So that has been inverted. So I think it's the opposite of the so-called natural scroll. If you use a Mac, natural I think is the one that comes by default. The next change is introducing support for the primary clipboard support. Primary clipboard, that is the middle mouse. When you press middle mouse on Linux and you get one kind of clipboard, but there are multiple. Well, that one. The multi-touch gesture support has been added on Saturday morning. Campbell is, I think, is using Wayland so much, he's not sleeping lately. I know, it's of course. Well, it is, because isn't on the other side of the planet, so it was actually in the afternoon of Saturday. That's interesting. Add support for zoom and rotate gestures. For now, the hold and swipe may be used in the future, although swipe maps to 2D smooth scroll on GNOME and KDE. It has been tested on the Apple trackpad and on Wacom tablets on GNOME and KDE. Also related to Wayland is that the tablet's middle and right mouse button on tablets, it has been swapped to follow what are the regular, like what people are used to if they're used KDE and GNOME applications on X11, which is the middle mouse button to be rotate, like the one that is close to the tip of the pen, and the other one is going to be right mouse button. And last but not least is that support was added for adding and removing devices at runtime. So it means that when Blender is running, you will be able to plug in and out like screens and other devices without Blender freaking out, which is always good. In the right, we have a bunch of little updates here and there. One of them is for an add-on, the Align Tools add-on. Do you use this add-on? Because now there is undo support. Yay, welcome to the 21st century. Align Tools, there is undo support for all the operators, and the advanced operators now have preset support. So pretty welcome. Okay, this is a win for open source. Video rendering now has support for the AV1 codec. Yay! Clap, clap, clap. Where's my clapping? Okay, clapping, clapping. That's amazing. So AV1 is it's like the future of codecs, you know, like H.265, but open source, because that's how things should be, right? and also more even browsers adding support for this and more applications. It allows you to use a format that is going to compress properly. I think it's between 40 and 50% higher compress rate than what you would have with like X264. So super welcome that Blender gets support for this kind of open source codecs. I wish Blender would be like the place where this where support for this could be added. I mean, FFmpeg, of course, via FFmpeg, but Blender in general. Super nice, super welcome. Open source for the win. Speaking of open source, you know that because Blender is open, you can compile it at home. You can build your own Blender, your own 3D software. Well, now when you run the install deps script that builds all the dependencies, you're gonna see that there will be a huge update because many of the libraries are being upgraded. Python, for example, is now 3.10.8 from 3.10. Has been upgraded. Still 3.10. Don't worry, don't panic. Your add-ons are safe. OpenImageIO from 2.3.13 to 2.3.20, and OpenPGL has been upgraded from 0.31 to 0.4. I think it's beta even that. And the FFmpeg version from 5.0 to 5.1.2. Man, that sounds like a big jump. Okay, speaking of big things, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking about Vulkan. Yes, I'm telling you. Of course you were thinking about that. What else? It's like Vulkan. That sounds like Vulkan, like volcano. You know what? Don't get too excited. I'm sorry. Sit down. It's not too exciting. Unless you're a developer. Because there is a new placeholder for Vulkan backend, which means that you can compile Blender to have Vulkan and support like a placeholder, and there is a whole bunch of files that are ready for you, developer at home, to fill it up with like shaders, compilation, validation, and together with other with OpenGL, Metal, and Vulkan now. So it's pretty exciting. Yes, you're gonna see a bunch of files. Most of them maybe are like really empty, but the fact that we have this is pretty exciting. I hope Jeroen that is looking, probably watching this, don't freak out. I'm not gonna send you a horde of Blender users, hopeful Blender users. I'm happy that this is moving forward and that developers don't have to take the first step into, adding the whole selection at least of GPU backend, which now you can do from the command line, thanks to another commit change by Jeroen a few days ago, actually 2 weeks ago, and that lets you run Blender with like --GPU -backend and you specify which one. So it is pretty nice. When you save the system info, now you're going to have a new entry that shows which active GPU backend was being used next to the device type, the vendor, and the extensions. So to make things more transparent and easier to debug. And speaking of libraries, another library that was updated is Open Shading Language, OSL. It went from 1.11.17 to 1.12.6.2. So welcome addition. And the last has this is the potpourri section, right? So it has a bit of everything. And I wanted to give this is a PSA and also a fun one. This is a fix to the walk mode. It didn't used to take the scene unit scale into account. So if you were on a tiny like unit scale and then decided to like teleport to jump, gravity was not in those units. So in Campbell's words, walk mode doesn't take in scene into account. When changing a scene unit from like 1 to 0.1, walk navigation no longer works properly. For example, whenever the gravity is enabled and the user starts to fall or to jump, the viewport glitched out into low Earth orbit. Yeah, nice. So I'm sorry if you used this to go into space to become the ISS, but now you have to do a bit more effort and actually jump more, I guess. Cool. That is all with the news in Blender this week and the last 2 weeks. We're gonna come back with news next week, so don't worry. Actually, next week should be the 7th of November. Then there is the 14th, and then the last show of this year is gonna be the 21st, because after that I'm taking a little break. So unless someone, the community, jumps in and wants to continue with this live streams, I'm not gonna be around. However, I will be around for the release of Blender on the 7th of December. We are already talking about December, yeah, because tomorrow is Wednesday. So 1, 2, 3 more episodes till the end of the show. Are we gonna reach 1 million users, do you think? 1 million subscribers? I'm gonna come back from holidays and see a nice little YouTube logo and I think I don't know what they give nowadays. What's new in Blender today? As in like the website, the community. Let's see if there's any questions. Otherwise, I'm gonna head out. There is 9 questions. After this, I have to do the Spanish version of Blender.Today. And hey, this was made by Kai. Kai is the winner of the Susana of the yes, of course. The winner of the Susana Awards not only made an amazing short film, but also made a blog post for this week. Thank you so much. The Lone Wolf is the first question. Hey Pablo, are there any plans on getting Blender's lighting and camera system to use physical values? It would be great to have Blender's lighting system up to industry standards and be a lot more deterministic to work with. I don't know of any dedicated plans regarding that, but I would say whatever, I think it not only affects it's not like Blender's lighting system, but it's like cycles and Eevee. Some time ago there was effort put into both having at least being able to talk to each other. So whichever has to take the lead, I would say cycles, which already does for some values. Which values are the ones that don't? But yeah, I don't know if any patches in there for the time being. Okay, hey Pablo, how are you? Doing great. I don't have a question this time. I just want to say thank you for the fantastic Blender conference. I had a wonderful time in Amsterdam, met amazing people, and listened to fascinating talks. And I have to say that the organization was top-notch. That is so heartwarming and nice to hear. I'm gonna pass it on to the team, to Francesco, to Bastian, who's been running all over the building. To everybody. There was like 3 people taking care of the videos going up, and the food was I think was good this year. On the first day, some people mentioned that the dinner wasn't as good as the lunch, so that tried to be fixed for the next day, and I hope the team did a good job. Half of the food was vegan, and that was also a nice welcome addition. I think on the first day there was a mistake. Some people thought that the oyster sauce wasn't vegan, and yep, if it says oyster on the name, that is an animal. So yeah, but overall I think it was a success, and the people was super nice. No one complained the fact that there was 6-7 flights of stairs. There were elevators too. So I forgot there was one Blender user in a wheelchair, and I forgot to ask him if it was okay to access the building and the facilities. But other than that, I think yeah, it was in the end a nice, well organized in general. You know, Ash Kirkhamsin says, hello Pablo, how about adding not only pixels to the render settings, but also inches, centimeters, millimeters to the render resolution? I think you need to add first a points per inch, right, for that, right? You need to define, because what is, I mean, millimeters, centimeters don't say anything if you don't know how much resolution you want those, right? So I think yes, for absolutely, for, isn't there add-ons? Are there add-ons for that already? Like, can do the math for it? Because it's only used in some situation, I would say, for like if you want to print most of the time. Next question. Hello, Pobla, says Barf Garbage. Username checks out. What was your your favorite talk on the conference? Yeah, I didn't get to see many. The one that I saw, again, I mentioned in the beginning of the stream, was the Sprite Frights production notes, but also because I've seen the work the guys have been doing. But what I like the most is that everybody managed to squeeze in 5 minutes what was their part of the process, and everybody gave tips about it. So it's like a production level production tips in 1 hour or less. Super nice. Max, hi, how are you? I'm great, thank you. I just need to recover from sleep and my voice. And after, I think, Blender Hoy, the Spanish version of Blender.Today, I think I'm gonna try to shut up until next Monday. Thank you. I hope you're doing well too. Old Kiev says, hello Pablo, how much people you announce hiring? How is Grease Pencil rewriting going on? How much people you announce hiring? How many people were hired? Well, Wysen, the Cycles developer working on the many light sampling, she's here at the building, so that was a good hire. And we had 2 people, also Micah and Haru, working on the making videos and recording everything that's going on at the studio and at the conference. So yeah, hiring is going well, but we need definitely many more people, and that's why you will still find the link to get to job openings in Blender.org. How's Grease Pencil rewriting going on? Fantastic. The rewriting itself, not so. Not. I don't think people are rewriting as we speak yet, or maybe they are. But the most important thing that happened last weekend at the conference was that there was a meeting that the Grease Pencil team organized. The Antonio, Matias, and Daniel, they organized to have at the conference, where they brought people from studios, people that work from Autor de Minuit, from people that work on the Unicorn Wars film, people that work on the Siren film, like Amelie, the new developer, Flavio, and Geometry Notes people, developers. They were there too, Jack and Hans and Dalai, and I was there too. So there is a lot of and Ton, at the end of the talk, Ton came by and say, Grease Pencil is one of the most important parts of Blender in the industry now, and it's really needs all the support that is needed, which means green light for doing more formal meetings for the module, but also maybe one day a workshop here at the studio that the Blender Foundation could sponsor by flying in, or the studios that use Blender could also sponsor to fly them in, people for like 2 days, 3 days, and have a little sprint, which could lead to a larger sprint. That was also mentioned, and many people in the table agreed on, okay, if we're gonna do like a 1-2 months of pure development just to kickstart the project, just like 2.8 happened for Blender, but the same for Grease Pencil, and everybody was on board, and it's like, yes, if I have to come here for 2 months, I will. And that's amazing. Dedication. Grease Pencil is a first-class citizen, and the change started in 2.8, but it's going so much further than that. And yeah, and the rewrite, the DOS was also there. So we had user, we had everything. And that was, it's purely to rewrite the core concept of strokes inside of Blender, Grease Pencil. But also that would open the doors for like things like geometry nodes in Grease Pencil, which would be mind-blowing. It will be, not would be, because that will happen for sure. Blender Dambas asks, hey Pablo, are there plans to start streaming BlenderToday live on both YouTube and Odyssey at the same time? So people that are trying to avoid YouTube could reply in comments. There is this if you don't want to see it on YouTube. YouTube, just check the live stream works. What is this thing? Post BCON. Somebody. Hey Pablo, somebody's streaming. I'm being streamed to another website. That's amazing. I didn't know. YouTube. Okay, so it's like without the noise of other parts of. Interesting. Well, I don't know if you could point me, if you know more about this, about how Odyssey works, because on OBS I only have to add the stream key, and if Odyssey has a stream key and there is a Linux plugin OBS plugin where I could stream to both, please let me know. At home I do it with restream to both places, but I would like to use an open source solution for this. And at home I was doing it because I stream to Twitch and to YouTube on my own Blender OI channel, and for that I use an extension that unfortunately is only available for Windows, I believe, the RTMP something. Let me know. I'm open. I mean, if it only takes me just changing the stream key, I would gladly stream to Odyssey. Hola Pablo, the BCON 22 was amazing, says Alumex. Still catching up to all the content. I hope you had a good time during those days. My question is regarding the asset library project. Do you know when or if it's going to be possible to add rigged characters as one asset? It is, as a collection. You can. That's how the team here worked. Currently, there is no straightforward way to do that. If you turn a collection instance real, it just turns all the bones visible and breaks a lot of stuff. Also, if you have any tricks for this, I will appreciate it a lot. Regarding the tricks, I'm sorry, I don't have a experience with it like directly, but this should work. Like the concept of adding a collection was not just because of a group of objects, but also because of their rigging capabilities, being able to override a modifier, a constraint on a bone. So in combination with library overrides, that should be, yeah, you shouldn't turn it real, the instance real, you should override things. Maybe I'm missing out something. And the last question by Blender Dambas again is, anyone working on being able to anchor the simulation of things to moving objects to cancel out the movement? I'm animating a movie with hair sim, but I cannot use it when they drive a car since the motion of the car throws the hair too much backwards. I wonder if there is a way to offset the center of the world for the simulation to be relative to the car to cancel out its motion. Or maybe I'm overthinking everything. I don't know how, well, multiple answers. First, is anyone working on being able to? No. Are people going to work on simulation stuff? Yes. The first step for the simulation, for the new simulation system in Blender, is going to be the simplest, right? Like the same way that geometry nodes started with just adding scattering, right? As an example, the first step, from what I heard the developers say, is going to be just being able to get data from the previous frame on geometry nodes. So you basically you access data from the previous frame and then you do things on top of it, right? So you can do some really, really simple simulation, no physics stuff, but simulations. And with that in mind, adding more and more over time. For what you're mentioning here, I wonder how detailed is what you're doing, and if you really need actual real simulations for this, because like, I don't know, like even, I mean, if you're working on a AAA film, maybe it makes sense. But for 99% of the cases, if you just want to have the hair move a little bit, you can use so many other tricks that from textures to transform the position with geometry nodes, even in the latest version of Blender, and lattices, empty objects to, you know, to avoid some part to be moved around some part, like to use the proximity as an example. Ray casting, even if you use a mesh to transform like a mesh with like a mesh deform of on, there are a million ways. So if you're really, I know maybe I don't know how much experience you have, but I remember that I always thought, whenever it's like, the hair is moving, so I need to simulate it. And when I noticed that, or when looking on tutorials or behind the scenes of films on YouTube, just going through behind the scenes, making offs, it's like, no one simulates much. I mean, you simulate it if you really have to, like do some like ocean simulation in Houdini, and you have the supercomputers to do it. But actually a lot is done just cheating things. I know it's not the best answer yet, but I know maybe you were looking for, but maybe it gives you some ideas for the time being until developers tackle this. I am going to call it a day. It's only 5 minutes past 1 hour, but I feel like my voice is breaking. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. If you haven't yet, please have a look at the Blender conference videos, because the community is doing insane things that you would never imagine. Blender is more than what we just see in a few channels online. Blender is it's community, it's support, it's innovation, it's making crazy things with crazy results, but always with so much passion. Everybody is just come in and they're working on their short film, on a demo, they're making their house or a friend's house in Blender, they're making little walkthroughs, and there is a lot more to come with the Blender apps, with Blender Lab, Blender extensions. This conference, we say it on every conference that it's the best one yet, but you see how much has grown, because the last Blender conference, believe it or not, it sounds crazy, but the last Blender conference, Blender 2.8, biggest leap in Blender for the last few decades, only was 3 months old. 2.8 came out in July 2018, so the conference happened in October. So 2022, it brought a lot more people doing crazy things. So let's continue with that. And to get there, we need to go step by step. The first one is to see you. Well, first one is to go and try out the new things. Give it a try to the beta on Wednesday. There will be a new Blender release, beta 3.4, which means alpha alpha 3.5. Please do, jump into 3.5, but if you find any issues, or if you need to stick with one version, maybe try the beta. Try your most complex files to see if they work. Try the new compositor, the real-time compositor. Anything that you find, any bug that you encounter or thing that doesn't work as expected, please report it, because there is a team of amazing people triaging those bugs, and the things that we capture, the bugs that we capture earliest as possible, it's gonna make for a more stable 3.4 on the 7th of December, right for Christmas and holidays for many people. For the time being, I'm jumping ahead basically. Let's just call it a day for now and go watch all the videos. I will try my best to also keep up with these videos. See you next week. Let me know which ones are your favorites, so I should go watch those first. See you next week, and happy blending. Thanks for watching. Bye. Oh yeah, your ear holes. out of context. That would be so bad. I hope you had a good time. Happy blending. Have a great week. Bye. Ciao. Ciao. Wait, I didn't say next week, same place, same time. Now I did. Ciao.